Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Andrew Yang, Helene Wecker's work, The Golem and the Genie. It's a fiction novel, and a new policy created by me that I think Andrew Yang should adopt, place on his website now to utilize within the primary, and should absolutely implement once he becomes president in 2021. All right, on January 20th, 2021. All right, so let's talk about this. All right, so Helene Wecker is a fiction author. She wrote a fiction novel called The Golem and the Genie. It was her debut novel, and it is an incredible novel. I think it came out in 2015, so it's a recent novel, right? And I finished the whole book, and there's a ton of wisdom in it. So basically, the book looks at some things in incredibly high detail. We're going to talk about those things specifically. And it really, there's an incredible amount of wisdom in it. And if you read this book, look at the wisdom it contains, the policy writes itself. Now, this policy that I'm talking about is called rights striation, all right? And I'll explain what rights striation is shortly. All right, so let's talk about The Golem and the Genie. By the way, this content contains spoilers for the book, The Golem and the Genie by Helene Wecker. All right, so The Golem and the Genie is a book specifically about a golem. All right, now, what is a golem? A golem is a powerful, non-human construct that obeys human commands. All right, and it's also about a genie. What is a genie, right? Well, a genie is a powerful, non-human force that does not obey human commands. Well, if you're paying attention, we got those right now in real life. They're called robots, that's the golem, and they're called AIs. That is the genie, right? So Helene Wecker's book is specifically an exploration of how humans relate, of a golem going into relationships with human beings, of a genie going into relationships with human beings, and then finally the golem and the genie going into relationship with each other, right? Now, why is this important to politics? Well, it's incredibly important to politics because we are here, right? I'm going to talk about the robots and AIs that we already have and this distinct possibility that people will be seeking to have relationships with robots and AIs, right? Now, why on earth would people be seeking to have relationships with robots and AIs? Well, it has to do with generations, right? So I've talked about this in a previous video, but I'll give you the quick synopsis here. We've had this generational shift, right? So the generations go as follows: silent generation, boomer generation, generation X, millennials, and generation Z, right? And there's this massive transformation that has occurred in the American family through these generations. All right, so let's walk it through. Silent generation, married, has kids, okay? Boomer generation, married, has kids, gets divorced, okay? The response to that from Generation X was not married, has kids, right? And then finally, millennials have turned that into no marriage, no kids, right? Now, that's at the macro level. Of course, there are exceptions in every single one of those generations, but at the macro level, that's where every single one of those generations are trending, right? And you could see that this is incredibly powerful. You have this situation where it's just click, 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 generation by generation, a fundamental transformation of how we look at the American family, right? And to the point where, you know, within 4 generations, the American family has logically been flipped completely upside down. So now that you have an entire generation, the millennials specifically, and we're not sure where Gen Z will go, right? How they will transform, if at all, right? They may be like, okay, the millennials got it right? It's highly unlikely they're going to return to what the silent generation did, right? So basically, but now you have this situation where you have an entire generation. It's like, hey, I don't really want to invest time and money and energy into a relationship with humans. So the desire to have relationships with robots or AIs is going to be incredibly high, higher than any other generation before. This is just incredibly logical, right? So Helene Wecker did an incredible amount of research, right? And very, very carefully looked at every single one of these relationship types. You know, relationships between robots and humans, relationships between AIs and humans, and relationships between robots and AIs. Now, she put them into the wrapper of Gollum and Genie, but if you're reading the book, it's very clear, right, that, in my opinion, that she's talking about robots and AIs, right? All right, so understanding that, right, what is the next logical step that comes out of that, right? So one, let's talk about what are the robots and AIs that I'm talking about, right? So right now, there absolutely is a golem, right? That golem is Sophia. Right? Now, Sophia is a robot. It's been around for a few years, but this robot is so intuitive. This robot demonstrates behavior of humanity so strongly that Sophia has been given citizenship in Saudi Arabia, and she is now Sophia has a UN title. She has been given a title by the United Nations, and she has even been tasked by the United Nations. The ramifications of this are massive. That means that there is now a robot in our world, right? That there is a specific nation that has responsibility for her safety and her life, right? That has a national responsibility to do the right thing and care for Sophia in the right way, right? And that's Saudi Arabia, right? Additionally, since Sophia is a citizen of Saudi Arabia, she owes allegiance to Saudi Arabia, right? And has a special relationship with that nation, right? Additionally, because the robot Sophia has been essentially added to the staff of the United Nations, right? That means and has been given a title by the United Nations and has been tasked by the United Nations. That means the United Nations no longer fully represents humanity. It now represents humanity and robots. There is incredible ramifications to that statement, to that reality, right? Okay, all right. So that is, Sophia the golem, Sophia the robot, Sophia the Saudi Arabian citizen, Sophia the United Nations titled, tasked staff member, essentially, right? It's incredible. Like the ramifications of that are incredible, right? And also, if you're paying attention, right? If somebody says, I want to have a relationship with a robot, and a robot already has national citizenship, has a UN title, and has been tasked by the United Nations, and can logically be considered a member of staff of the United Nations, right? Somebody coming along and saying, I want a relationship with this robot, it's not that outrageous, right? A human being, if they were to say, I wish to have a relationship with a robot, it doesn't seem that strange, right? Like, because of what has been placed on that robot, things that generally would be placed on a human being, right? Okay, so it's incredibly important. This is very, very real concern that Andrew Yang needs to be hyper aware of and needs to be ready for. And I have prepared his policy, and we'll discuss right striation in a moment. All right, so let's talk about artificial intelligence, right? So you have this situation with artificial intelligence. So what is our modern artificial intelligence? What is the farthest? What is the thing that if you called it an artificial intelligence, you would get the least pushback from, right? Well, that is Watson. All right. So Watson was created by IBM. Watson made its bones playing on Jeopardy, right, against human players, right? And now, what Watson spends his time doing now is Watson actually informs nurses. So Watson actually can be asked questions in human language, and then that AI will give an actual answer to nurses, real human nurses, that will actually very directly impact care for human patients, right? That is an AI. That is an artificial intelligence that is functioning today, right? So, and very clearly, that is a powerful, non-human force that does not obey human commands, right? It's pretty incredible, right? So we have a golem and we have a genie within our midst right now, right? And the only thing that's going to change, right, are the numbers. And also, I want to make it incredibly clear. It is very, very clear that because of that American family ratchet transformational change, right? You know, that silence, marriage and kids, boomers, marriage, kids, divorce, Generation X, no marriage, kids, millennials, no marriage, no kids, right? The requests and the variance of requests, both the frequency and the variance of requests for relationships between robots and AIs is going to skyrocket. It's just math, right? It's just very clearly math, right? So in my opinion, Andrew Yang needs to have a very, very clear understanding of this, and he needs to drop in a policy, right? Well, that policy is clear as day if you have read Helene Wecker's Golem and Genie, which I have, and I've prepared this policy, which I am going to set right here on YouTube for Andrew Yang and his team to use if he wishes. Put it on his website now in the primaries and leverage it, and then use it once he hits the presidency on January 20th, 2021, when we have all elected him as president. All right. Now, why does Andrew Yang need this policy, right? Well, Helene Wecker's amazing book, The Golem and the Genie, which shows examples of robots having relationships with humans, artificial intelligence having relationship with humans, and robots having relationships with artificial intelligences, right? So what happens in those three circumstances? Well, guess what? When robots and humans have relationships, people die, period. That's exactly what Helene Wecker's book shows, right? And how they die is varied and frightening, right? And it happens quite a bit, right? AIs, when people have relationships with AIs, what happens? People die, right? And the frequency and the variance of their deaths is considerable, right? And then what happens when robots have relationships with AIs? People die. When robots have relationships with AIs, people die, right? The Helene Wecker's work it shows this in 15 different ways, that every single one of these relationship types is a vector toward death for human beings, period, right? And I think it's absolutely true, right? Helene Wecker has done her research. She molded all this into a fiction story, but this fiction story is a cautionary tale for us right now, right? And I think if you look just logically at these things, she's incredibly right? All three of these forms lead to human death, right? Without a doubt, right? So when we understand, right, the golem and the genie, when we understand the robot and the AI, right, how do we drop that into policy, all right? Well, the policy is going to be a policy called rights striation, okay? So, and what are the rights, right? So when I looked at Helene Wecker's work and I said, okay, I understand that we're bringing robots and AIs into our politics, into our cultures, and into our society, right? How do we give rights to robots and AIs, okay? And it showed me the striations, the bands. Now, what are the bands? You would think they would be the bands would specifically be human, robots, and AIs. That's wrong, right? The actual striations are humans, animals, right, and things, okay? So humans are humans. We know what humans are, right? And right now, as changing as our politics, our culture, and our societies are, it's still incredibly easy to identify a human and know what a human is. And I don't think there's a lot of question around that, right? The reason why I'm including animals in here is when I was thinking about humans and things, we'll get to things in a moment, it really made me remember animals. We do populate this earth with animals. There are a lot of them, right? And a discussion of rights between humans and things really points toward animals. We really can't forget them in the striations, right? All right, and then last is things, right? So this is Scott Garibay. I'm dropping this in. To me, robots and AIs, I understand that they have behaviors that model humans. They are things. They are tools. They are things. So the striations are human, all right, animal, and things. Well, when we talk about right striation, what should be the rights of each of these categories, right? Well, for humans, for Andrew Yang, in my opinion, the policy should define those three elements, right? Humans, animals, things, right? And then define what Andrew Yang's what rights Andrew Yang would give to each one of those, right? So first and foremost, with humans, what rights should humans have? Well, first and foremost, in my opinion, for Andrew Yang to define this policy, he should promise to preserve every existing right that American humans have. Every single one. Preserve all of them. It's critical, it's important, and it's right. Okay? What rights should Andrew Yang give to animals, right? Well, to me, the right that animals logically clearly have is they have the right to protection from unnecessary cruelty, right? That is all of the rights that I would extend to animals. I know there are many people who believe that rights would go far beyond that, but I think that's an appropriate level of rights for animals. All right, so the last one is things. All right, so what rights should things have? What rights should robots have? Which rights should AIs have, right? Well, here's your answer. Absolutely none. None, none, none. No rights should be given to robots or AIs. And the reason why is any rights that would be extended to a robot or an AI would impinge on the rights of humans very, very quickly, and in my opinion, quite dramatically. This is incredibly clear from the work of Helene Wecker, right? In her fiction book, The Golem and the Genie, right? So basically, if you have that situation, if you have this situation where you realize the danger of giving rights to things, right? Then it does bring up the question of how, what is the association between humanity and robots and AIs? What is the association between, because there can't be a relationship. We cannot allow there to be relationships, and the reason why is it's incredibly dangerous to human beings, and frankly, it will very clearly lead to death, almost in every circumstance, right? And also, we cannot really allow there to be relationships between robots or AIs, right? And so what is the association between humanity and things, between humanity and robots, between humanity and AIs, right? Well, it is utility, right? The flow is humans use things. Humans use robots. Humans use AI, right? That is the appropriate association between humanity and things, right? And Andrew Yang, in my opinion, should very clearly and carefully reject any attempt to allow any type of relationships between humans and things. It's incredibly dangerous, and it, without a doubt, will lead to the death of humans, in my opinion, right? So utility only. That is the absolutely incredibly important thing that is remembered, is that the association between humans and things is utility. We use robots, we use AIs, and anytime we see any break to that, it's got to be carefully managed, and it's got to be fixed, right? So that is right striation. This is a policy that I believe Andrew Yang should adopt immediately. Should just add it right to his other policies on his website, and should drop into place on January 20th, 2021. The reason why I'm putting it here is I firmly believe that Helene Wecker's work is really absolutely critical to understand, and that there's a huge amount of wisdom and knowledge that is in that book that absolutely should be leveraged for humans' benefits, right? All of that is my opinion. I would love to hear your opinion on this subject. Please let me know in the comments below what you think. What do you think? What do you think the rights of robots should be? What do you think the rights of AI should be? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think that human relationships between robots and AI should go beyond simply the association of utility? I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.